Well, hello there, you guys. I had to take a bit of a recovery break, but I'm back now with a couple more Halloween videos, this one inspired by the Bride of Chucky. So thank you for your patience as always, and I hope you'll enjoy this one. Princesswig was kind enough to send me another wig to feature this Halloween season, which we'll talk a little more about later, but big thank you to them as well as AMI Club Wear for providing the jacket for this look. And as always, Samhain contact lenses for the absolutely amazing lenses. Be sure to check out all their info in the description, and let's get right into it. For my base, I'm actually using my concealer, which is a tad bit lighter than my usual foundation. I'm applying this all over my face and down onto the neck, blending onto the ears as well. Once I have my base layer done, I'm dotting on another layer where I need more coverage. Then I'm setting that in place with a translucent powder. I'm contouring with my usual shade along the jawline and up onto the chin, being sure to blend down onto the neck, then around the forehead, and just a little bit along the cheekbones. For blush, I'm starting with a lighter pinky shade, applying that to the apples of the cheeks and blending out. I knew I wanted quite a bit of color on the cheeks, but I'm starting out small here as per usual and building up the color little by little until I'm happy with it. She has pretty rosy cheeks, so I decided to go in with a teeny tiny bit of this berry red loose shadow, and again blending over those same areas on the cheeks as well as a little on the nose and chin. Then to highlight, I'm going in with kind of an icy champagne shade, and first applying it to the tops of the cheekbones, then onto the chin and sides of the forehead. I'm taking this down the neck and onto the collarbones as well. I wasn't sure in the beginning how much I wanted to highlight, so I started with the areas I would more naturally go for, and then as I went decided to just apply this at least lightly everywhere. I switched to a smaller fluffy brush to highlight down the nose and the brow bones. All this highlighting is going to help give us kind of a plastic doll-like glow without using anything that's going to stay sticky on our skin like a gloss and get everywhere all night, especially the wig, which is one of the main reasons I opted for this. I then curled my lashes and popped in my contact lenses, then I'm lining my waterline all around the eye using a black pencil liner. The one I'm using is waterproof, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. On the bottom, I'm doing one eye at a time so I can blend and smudge that liner out before it sets in place, and I'm using a small smudge brush to do that. I'm then going in with a black eyeshadow base and stippling that onto the mobile lid, just messily taking that up to about the crease and blending along the lower lash line as well. Then using a stiff domed brush, I'm buffing out those edges so they're nice and soft. I'm keeping the shape fairly round with a very slight cat eye feel around the outsides. I decided to black out the inner corner, so I'm applying the black liner there and again blending out with the domed brush. Then going in with the same berry red pigment we used on the cheeks and packing that onto the black base using a flat brush. I'm switching it to a small crease blending brush to start blending that out, and I'm applying that along the lower lash line as well, then using a clean buffing brush to help blend the edges out even more. We want this to be super smoky. Now taking a slightly darker, more brown red shade, I'm blending that over the lid to darken. I want to keep that red berry tone around the edges, so I'm applying this the most to this center area and then just lightly blending over the edges. Then same thing along the lower lash line. I'm using my highlight brush to lightly flick away any fallout, then going back in with the buffing brush to soften around the edges. And there you can see the difference that darker shade made over top. I'm then going in with a peachy prismatic shadow to highlight the inner corners a bit, focusing it mostly on the lower portion, blending about a third of the way in on the lower lash line, using a small tapered flat brush, then again buffing out those inner edges. For the brows, I'm trying out this new color ink from Makeup Forever, but any black product you have will do, an eyeliner, brow pomade, liquid lipstick, body paint. And I decided to stick mainly to my natural shape, but within that try to keep them as thin as possible, lengthening out the tail to a nice thin point and rounding out the inner part slightly. You could of course block your brows and create the super thin arched shape she has if you want to as well. And then brushing through the brows with a spoolie brush to help distribute the product evenly. Moving on to the nose contour, I wanted to make my nose just a little bit thinner and give it a more rounded kind of button nose tip. So I started out along the sides of the nose bridge, blended up into my eyeshadow at the top, then around the tip where I wanted to round it out. I'm using a pencil brush for all this base contouring and the same powder contour I used for my face. I darkened the shadows a bit and then brought the contour in onto the nose just above the tip to create a shadow there. I'm then creating a subtle wrinkle shadows under the inner part of the brows, curving in and up slightly from the eyeshadow. I'm shading in her dimples and the nasolabial folds, then defining the chin shape and shading the area between the cupid's bow. Then I'm again switching to a clean buffing brush to blend out these initial contours. The shadow on the nose, we want to blend that so it's not just a straight line across the nose, so I'm fading the edges up more than the center. Then I shaded more around the nostrils and used that buffing brush to blend it out. Before creating more of the smile lines, I wanted to do the lips, so I knew where I wanted to place those wrinkles, and I'm using a super deep purple liquid cream lipstick. First applying that to my natural lip shape, overdrawing the cupid's bow a little bit, then using a thin lip brush to extend the corners of the mouth up into a slight smile. I'm fading the ends out so they're really thin, but you can make them thicker if you want to, then using a bit of concealer to clean up the edges where needed. I'm highlighting the nose a bit more, then decided to curve the nose contour in just the tiniest bit, and then I'm redefining some of those shadows. I'm also adding more of that highlight to the brow bones using the same brush used to highlight the inner corners, and I decided to brighten up the inner corners with the highlight as well. My initial cupid's bow highlight got covered up by the lipstick, so I'm applying more there, then redefining the lip line using the lip brush. Then I'm deepening the contours around the mouth and shading under and around the apples of the cheeks and also onto the upper lip area so it doesn't appear to be sticking out quite so much. I'm also connecting these shadows down to the corners of the smile. I'm contouring more under the bottom lip and just outside the bottom lip line, then switching to a darker brown shadow and a detail brush to define and deepen some of the shadows and wrinkles. Then going back in with the pencil brush to blend that out a little bit, and I went over with my lighter contour shade as well. I'm adding another shadow around the corners of the mouth with the lighter shade blending down toward the chin, then decided to contour my cheeks a little bit more. The thing with all this contouring is, first I'm using a couple reference photos so I have an idea of what I want to achieve, and I'm also working with my natural curves, wrinkles, and contours. I was experimenting and adding more, shading more where I saw fit, and you can start out light at first so it's easier to blend away and change as well, but basically I'm just adding more shadows until I think it looks good. Some are darker and deeper, some lighter, and I really like how that effect ended up looking with the varying depths of shadows. Then I'm dotting on her beauty mark using the same black color ink I used for the brows, and I'm applying a fairly excessive amount of black mascara to top and bottom lashes. I didn't have any false lashes that I liked for this look, so I didn't wear any, but you can of course add some if you like, since she does have pretty intense lashes. Lastly, I decided to add this lighter metallic cream lipstick for a bit of a shiny highlight near the center edges of the lips. You could use a gloss here instead as well, or even an eyeshadow or highlight. And I'm just using my finger to help blend that out. So that's going to complete the face makeup, and moving down to the tattoo, I've mirror flipped this photo of her tattoo so it'll be easier to paint on backwards. But before we get to that, I'm adding some cleavage shading since I pretty much don't have any, and I'm using the same shades I used on the face, starting out with a bigger brush to base out the shadows and then switching to the pencil brush with the darker color for more defined shading. Again, using both a reference photo and my own curves to create a fairly natural looking contour, then adding a little more highlight. For the tattoo, I'm starting by outlining the basic shapes using a detail brush and the darker brown eyeshadow. I folded out and bobby pinned part of my shirt so I don't get makeup all over it, and for the name I started by placing the C and then the Y where I wanted them and then filled in with the rest of the letters. Once I've got everything outlined, I'm filling in the heart with a red alcohol activated paint, but you could also use a cream, water activated paint, liquid lipstick, eyeliner, lip liner, liquid liner, whatever you have. I then painted in the drip still with the red, then filled the little sword in with my concealer and black for the handle and all the outlining. I went with the alcohol activated paints because I knew it would be rubbing on my shirt a lot and I didn't want it to transfer onto it. But you could also move it up a bit higher or just place it differently so you know it won't hit your white top. I'm using the same black paint on a very small detail brush for the script, and I'm just following the reference photo as closely as I can here. The only other tips I have for this, besides using a reference photo, is to just take your time if you need to, work in small strokes, outline the general placement first so you have a guide, and just be patient with yourself. I found actually looking down at the lettering as I painted it, although not comfortable at all on the neck, was best for me because if I look in the mirror I can get a bit disoriented. And since I used an alcohol activated paint, I'm going in with a small amount of just a straight 99% alcohol on a detail brush to clean up and erase or modify, wiping my brush off as I go to help keep it clean. I stippled over the entire thing with a tiny bit of concealer and translucent powder to tone it down slightly and make it look a bit more tattoo-like, and then sprayed with a setting spray to cut down on the powdery look. I put in some small silver hoop earrings and then onto the wig, which is the Betty Ombre bob style lace front from Princesswig. On the inside there are 3 combs to help secure the wig in place, as well as the adjustable straps along the bottom. And this wig is darn near perfect for this look. It was just what I was looking for. You could style this if you want more of Tiffany's classic look, but I thought as is, it looked great for what I wanted. The last thing we need to do is throw on our jacket and maybe a little bit of setting spray, and then we are all set. I really love how this one came out, and I hope you guys do too. This one may actually be one of my new favorites. I have 1, possibly 2 more videos coming in time for Halloween, so stay tuned. Don't forget to check out all the info down in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.